Yes, people, welcome again to The Point. Glad to have you join and tune in. This episode, going to be going in a little bit, going to be doing things slightly different. The message that I want to talk about today is that we have to tell the youths, don't go to Micah's house. Yeah, don't go to Micah's house. Before I even start and get into it, I just want to give you some facts here. Every year, I look at the youth justice statistics, and here's some of the figures ending from 2020 and 2021. Overall, when you look at it, and you can go onto the government website, gov.uk, and you will see it shows that overall arrests for young people has decreased. So arrest, sentencing, stop and search for young people has decreased, but don't let that fool you. When we look closely, for black children, for black boys in particular, they're still 4 times more likely to be arrested than white children. The amount of black kids being arrested has doubled over 10 years. So since 2011, black boys being arrested has doubled. For white kids, it's drastically decreased. There's a 14% increase since 2011 on stop and search for black kids. There's a 14% increase. White kids, there's been a 15% decrease of them being stop and searched. Black kids receiving cautions has nearly doubled since 2011. Doubled. Mixed heritage kids has increased. White kids has decreased. Overall, when you look closely, black kids, it's either doubled or it's increased. But the picture they want to try and paint is that arrests overall for the nation, for the country, has decreased. But when you look closely, black kids are still being targeted. Black kids are still being discriminated against when it comes to the criminal justice system. But I don't just want to talk about just the criminal justice system, because normally when we talk about black kids, we always think of violence or youth violence and criminality. So here's some statistics in regards to mental health, which is another big issue. And this was conducted by the Children's Society in collaboration with other mental health organizations. And this is what it says. Statistics for 2020 and 2021. 1 in 6 children aged 5 to 16 are likely to have a mental health problem. That's 1 in 6. 17 to 22-year-old women are the group most at risk of developing a mental health problem. So our young women, our young girls are most at risk of developing a mental health problem. 52% of 17 to 23-year-olds have experienced a deterioration in their mental health in the last 5 years. 34% of those who get referred to the NHS do not get accepted for treatment. 55% of 16 to 25-year-olds said they have seen their GP about mental health at some point in their lives. Over half of young people. 50% of all mental health problems start by the age of 14. And then 40% of 6 to 16-year-olds have experienced deterioration in their mental health over the past 4 years. This is scary. And remember what I said at the start, do not let the youths go to Micah's house. And I want to look at Judges 17. Judges 17 is a very, very interesting chapter and an interesting event. Now, obviously, I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but I want you to take time out and to read that chapter, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And I'm going to kind of paraphrase some of the key parts as well. But just to give you the context, if you remember about the book of Judges, Judges is a time, and it refers to a key kind of scriptural statement that in those days, there was no king in Israel, and everyone did what was right in their own eyes. So from chapter 1 to chapter 16, we see the story of these 12 different judges, or these rulers or leaders that lead Israel in different times. We know people like Deborah, Samson, Jephthah, and so on. And there's some of the smaller or the minor judges as well that we get a bit of a glimpse, but we don't know too much about. So from those first 16 chapters, we see what's happening in Israel under the leadership of these different judges. And then straight after the end of the event and story of Samson, we come to this particular chapter in this story of this guy called Micah. Now Micah, this chapter talks about, he's a guy, we don't know too much about him. We know where he lives in Israel, in the hill country of Ephraim. And it says that he steals money from his mum. His mum realizes that he's stolen money. And then he gives the money back to his mum because his mum pronounces a curse. And then in return, his mum says, "Bless you, my son. Out of the money that you've taken," so overall it said that he took 1,100 shekels of silver, which is a whole heap of money. And she says, out of that 1,100, I'm going to give you 200 shekels of silver, and I want you to dedicate that to the Lord, and I want you to make an idol. So then Micah takes the 200, bearing in mind he's thieved this money already, but then he gives it back, then he gets 200, he makes an idol, and then he puts it in his house. And then the story says that he's put it in his house, and then his sons kind of serve as priests. But then this is where it gets interesting. Then we're introduced to this young Levite. We don't know this young Levite's name, but it says this young Levite, he's traveling, he's from the clan of Judah, and he's looking for somewhere to stay. So then he books upon Micah. So then Micah says, "Hold on, where you going? What you doing?" And he says, "I'm looking for somewhere to stay." And he says, "Hold on, you're a Levite. Come into my house. You be my priest. You serve the gods that I've got in my shrine. I'll give you wages. I'll give you 10 shekels a year. I'll give you food. I'll give you clothing. I'll make you nice." And then the young Levite is like, "Okay, cool." And then at the end of the chapter, Micah thinks that he's been blessed by the Lord, and then it stops there. But then the story continues in chapter 18, which I won't go into. But this is interesting. If you notice, Micah, and the name Micah means who is like Yahweh. And I find it ironic that here's this figure, this character with the name of who is like Yahweh, but yet still he has set up idolatry in his own house, because the key thing is everyone is doing what they think is right in their own eyes. And then he exploits and he takes advantage of this young Levite, this young person who is looking to fulfill his purpose. And this is what's key. He knows he's a Levite, he knows what he's meant to do, and so he's going searching. And so he bucks up on Micah, and Micah takes advantage of the situation. He looks to exploit this young person for his own gain. And this is what I'm saying, don't let the youths go to Micah's house. Because what we're doing is that we're allowing them to be exploited and used and abused by people who don't have their best interests at heart. Look at the statistics that I gave you at the start. If we're going to expect the government or policies or society to take care of our youths, we've got another thing coming. How is it since 2011 in crime that it's doubled, that they're more likely to still be stop and search after the Lammy report, after the race disparities report, after the George Floyd protest, after all that, they're still being discriminated. And are we going to expect that society are going to do? No, we can't let them go to Micah's house. We can't let them continue to be exploited. And here's the thing. We tend to think young people, they don't really want to know about God. They're not interested. No, I'm not buying that, because there's research that was conducted by the Pew Center Research. And also there were some articles a few years ago that highlighted that young people are more interested in searching and exploring about faith and spirituality. Now they might want to go and find out about this, about that, about New Ageism, about this type of spirituality, but there's something that is connected. They're searching for something, and like the young Levite who was wandering, trying to find his and fulfill his purpose, they're searching. So what are we doing about it? And I have to hold my hands up as a church leader and say that we're not doing enough. We're allowing them to go to Micah's house. We're allowing them to still be discriminated. We're allowing them to still be exploited. So what are we going to do? And so what? They're going to come in smelling the weed. They might come in feisty. They might come in showing that they've got no manners. They might come in showing signs of trauma. So what are we going to do? The statistics are there for us to see. Mental health is running rampant amongst young people, and the criminal justice system, our young black boys in particular, are being discriminated against. They're being locked up. They're being cautioned. They're being stop and searched more than any other race in this country. And what, we're just going to hold our hands up and just let them carry on going to Micah's house? But I also have to say, for young people, if there's any young people watching this, you have to take responsibility, some responsibility as well. Look, we have to bear the burden though. As adults and as church leaders and even as a wider community, we have to bear the burden and say, look, we haven't taught you any better to a degree. We haven't helped you out. And we have to hold that, but we have to do things different. But I just want to say this as well to any young person. Try and use a bit of wisdom. Try and understand, as much as you want to live and find your purpose and to be great, don't let people exploit you. Try not to let people take advantage of you. Try and look out for those warning signs, for those trigger moments, those red flags where people are going to want to try and use and abuse you. Don't allow that. Don't allow them to do that. See yourself as, see how much you're loved and how valued and see the worth that you carry and that you have. And that's something that we have to continue to champion and to let you know. And so I'm going to leave it there. And so, church, community, don't let the youths go to Micah's house. Young people, please don't go to Micah's house. And I want us to really reflect on that and to know that we have to do better. We have to create a space and allow them to come into the kingdom, no matter how they are, no matter how they look, and not leave them to society or to government policy, but to bring them under our arm and to walk and journey with them. So peace, take care, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to this content. If you liked it, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and make a comment down below. Or even more so, check out our website, www.affinityxtra.com, for more information.